And we are live. It's Smart San Diego. It's Steve Pletz. It's Derek Evans. What's up, Steve?
Oh, how I have waited for this day.
Air 5.
Air 5.
Air 5. A little sick today. Got the litany of beverages here. My sole purpose for today is to get Steve sick. Only if he disagrees with me at any point during the segment. So we're going to talk a little bit about, so we made a bet toward the end of last year. It's actually been over a year now since we made the bet.
You've been, I don't know what it is, but you've been dodging my calls.
You've been nice about it. You've been nice about it. Steve's been nice about it because I did get it wrong. And this is one of those things where at the time, a year ago, we were looking at the market and it was definitely a hardcore seller's market. And we've got some data we're going to show you, which kind of, it's one of those things where I was right for a few months. I was right for a few months, and the market really looked to be correcting towards the end of last year. And then just like went crazy. Has gone crazy since, Steve. We're going to look at Oceanside, which is what our bet was about. Mm-hmm. Oceanside is a great barometer market, I think, because it's a value market that's coastal, right? It's a coastal value market, which is the only one that exists still, right? And then we'll look at San Diego as well. I'm going to keep talking so you don't get the chance to actually enjoy any of this.
You're stealing all my tactics. These are all my... I see you want to jump in, but I'm just going to keep going.
Numbers up here. So the bet was basically, will the market be up or down? And we kind of say, okay, well, if it's neutral, if the market's flat, then so be it. But what I've got here, I'll just go ahead and I'll start pulling some of this stuff up. So we're going to use Alto's research just because, it's essentially a third party. Anyone can look this information up. You don't have to have a license or anything like that. You can look on Altos and you can kind of see what's going on. And they give you this data. You have to sign in with my Facebook account or whatever. You do have to have some sort of login or use your Facebook. But they'll give you a barometer of the market right here. So you can see, hey, this is is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? Is it kind of a balanced market? Right now, still saying a strong seller's market, Steve, which is really interesting. They also give you some cool data over here, which we'll discuss. The median price, price per square foot, which is also a median figure, days on market, average. Have to take that with a grain of salt. Price decreases, which are also known as price reductions, also known as price, what do they call them?
Improvements?
Price improvements.
As a realtor, you got to have the right lingo. That's the key. It's all about the diction. It's all about the way that you phrase it.
Price improvements.
Let's improve the price.
Let's improve the price, improve the opportunity to sell this home. So you see there, 34%, that still seems to me like a pretty good chunk. I mean, a third of the homes are seeing a price reduction, yet we're in a strong seller's market. Is that contradictory information, do you think?
I think that and so then I think to your point, there's a lot about the Altos that I like. But then from there, what you have to do is you really have to break down the data. So it's saying it's a seller's market and there's price reductions, improvements, we'll say. Mm-hmm. To me, what that says is very limited inventory. So we're not seeing a lot of homes that are on the market, but you're also seeing those sellers that think that their house is worth more than it is. It creates a very unique environment right now where there simply isn't a lot for sale, but there's this difference, there's this discrepancy between buyers and sellers.
There's a gap.
There's a gap.
There's a gap in the bid and the ask. And that's when you see price reduction. Now, I think when a third of the homes on the market are having a price reduction, price improvement, that to me is not a great sign. But what do I know? Let's look at the median list price graph.
So we're looking at Oceanside, right?
We're looking at Oceanside. Now this goes all the way back to December 2016. We had a 534, let's call it a 535 median price. Now we discussed our bet towards, I think it was October, wasn't it?
Right, October of last year.
2018. So at that point, we were right here in this, kind of in the choppy trading range. It was a sideways action. We saw the market take a little bit of a dive here. You saw the median price jumped all the way down to below 600. This is Oceanside. But then just a steady eddy climb. Now these two lines that you're looking at here, one, the choppy one is the 7-day average. The solid red line here is the 90-day average. So the 90-day average is going to have less ups and downs. It's over a longer period of time. The 7-day average will give us a little more of the spikes, show us a little bit more of what was really happening. How did the 90-day average, move so nicely here to the high side? It's because there was a lot of movement up here. There was a lot of, the 7-day average was at 670 at one point here,
Right.
And which is back to where we are now. So we'll talk about that in a second as to kind of what's next, but it definitely looks like a double top. But look at how wrong I was. So it got all the way to...
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that. Can we play that back one more time?
I'm only saying it so you don't get to. Plain and simple. I'm not going to let you have it. So in early October, 622, we saw... Now, if you look at the 90-day, it just kind of slid through the end of the year, and this went all the way in to January before movement started going up again, and it went steady. And now, if you look at the 90-day, which is a little bit more indicative, we're at 657.
Yeah.
Which represents, by the way, about a 5% increase.
Right, and over the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in appreciation that's around that 6% number. I think that this... And each city, what I like about Altos is it breaks it down by city. Each city is a little bit different, but I was able to sneak a peek at the San Diego graph that you had pulled.
We'll be looking at San Diego in a second.
And it makes me understand a little bit about why you and other people felt like the market was shifting. I mean, when you look at the trend here this goes back 2 years. A lot of appreciation, plateaued appreciation, and then we're starting to see some kind of change, some type of shift. I understand why you made the bet that you did.
Are you backing away right now?
No, I'm not. I'm not backing away. It just makes me. Here's to me is my takeaway.
We're not going to listen to Steve's takeaway because we've got comments here. My first interruption. Your grandstanding will not last. So Robert Comstock says, right till the Fed juice the market. Interesting point. We could overlay the graph here
Absolutely.
of the real estate movement with the time that the Fed started talking dovishly, when they first started saying, hey, we're going to do something. They started taking action, remember. But you could also make the same argument that it was when the Fed raised rates that caused the big move down on the San Diego chart,
Right.
which we could look at. So Robert, you're right, but it works both ways. So when they raised rates, that caused the dip. They lowered rates, that caused the increase. It almost looks to me like the Fed has too much power to wag the market. Just too much. Too much. You shouldn't be able to move the market that much by pushing buttons. That's scary. Just in all, that they have that much power, because they also have only so many bullets in the magazine.
Right. I'm with you.
All right, I need to take a drink so you can talk.
Well, it just makes me understand why those types of bets were
Okay,
made.
I'm done now.
Yeah, like when we look at the Redfin Now scenario,
Yeah.
which was Vista,
Yes.
which was, going back several months, we had thought, why in the hell are they doing this? This is a bad deal for them. They're losing money. We had that whole discussion. And as it turned out, they timed the market really well.
They made money.
So maybe they were really smart, or maybe they got lucky, or maybe, I feel like nobody knows what's going to happen. We have our fingers on the pulse of the market, and 50% of us didn't know what the hell was going to happen.
Well, that was interesting to me, is that you were more bearish
Right.
for those particular sellers than Redfin was.
Right.
They were more optimistic than you were.
Right.
And you turned out you had to eat the crow that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You had to eat the crow.
We did a whole segment on who's smarter, Steve or Redfin, and
You can YouTube that one. if
you can
haven't seen it.
YouTube that one.
Philippe also says, two smart guys right there. Yes, Philippe Heller, thank you so much, my friend from the real estate.
At
Inspection
least
Company.
one smart guy there.
Yeah, at least one. There's at least one of us. So let's look at San Diego here. Now, we're just kind of taking a macro look at this, right? Because what we want to talk about is, what do we think is going to be likely, or what are the possibilities going to look like going into next year? And we can, sometimes these charts will tell us something, and sometimes they might not. Robert alluded to something earlier, that we got a hint about what the Fed does, how that moves things. We can also take a look, and I can pull it up here pretty easily, at what the market has done the last couple of days, the stock market.
Right.
What interest rates have done the last couple of days. By the way, great opportunity right now to refinance, especially your FHA or VA loans.
Yeah.
Huge opportunity to refinance. My company, Align Mortgage, specializes in that, NMLS 155010. Their rates are definitely, so tomorrow, when the market opens, pricing through our organization will be better than it was today. There's going to be an amazing opportunity for people FHA and VA to refinance, so keep that in mind out there. Here's San Diego. So now, we saw on Oceanside, if we go back up here and look, Oceanside scored Altos is a 56 on the seller market side. Balanced is at a 50. Still saying strong seller's market. If you look here at San Diego, also, oh, wait a minute, sorry, they're saying a seller's market goes to 30.
Right.
Okay, interesting. So this is actually the mark where it's neutral. This is 30. I thought it was 50.
They call it the Market Action Index.
Market Action Index.
Yeah.
So on this one, it's 30. We're at 56 in Oceanside. We're at 50 in San Diego. Now, we don't have the whole county in here. This is going to be City of San Diego, so this is not including Del Mar, or Encinitas, or Carlsbad, or some of those. This is
or even as you go to East County, like Santee, et cetera.
Correct.
Yeah, this
El
is the
Cajon.
city of San Diego, which is included.
Carmel Valley's in there.
Claremont Mesa's in there.
TC.
Yeah.
There's good markets in there.
Right.
You know, Bay Park is included in this.
Right.
Pacific Beach and all that stuff is included in there. So I believe, is Ocean Beach in this one?
Yeah, Ocean Beach will be in there.
Ocean Beach is in there. So Ocean Beach. So there's some really good markets in here. So I'm not trying to poo-poo this, but it doesn't encompass all of those markets that we talked about. Some of the higher priced ones as well. Still, take a look at this. What would you have thought the median list price was
Yeah.
in the city of San Diego?
I would have thought in the low to mid eights. To see it near $1 million is,
You would have thought the eights?
yeah.
Wow. Almost $1 million.
Yeah.
Right there. That's bonkers. 477 isn't too crazy, in my opinion. It could be crazier. We've seen it get crazier than that. You know, in the boom, but right before the bust, we were in the 5s in a lot of places. Some of them in the 6s. There are places that are selling for $1,000 a foot right now in downtown.
And it's remarkable. I mean, we just had a client that closed downtown in a new BOSA building, $1,200 a square foot. And
I know that building.
it's beautiful.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing building, and I think that a lot of what he's doing around there is, I mean, as a builder, what they're doing is really great for the community and changing things for the better in an already great city. But $1,200 a square foot in order to have somebody say, "Hello, Mr. Platts." I mean, I might, maybe, I might.
1,200 a foot. Wow. Someone to say hello, Mr. Platts, when you walk in. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
It's nice.
it's pretty nice.
It's nice. Is he in you cookies too?
I mean, drive that drive. I'm just saying
Okay.
it.
All right. So days on market here also 80 or 88. Sorry. We're back at Oceanside. We were at 70.
Yeah.
So, you know, in these two markets, the only reason we're comparing is because we bet on Oceanside. And looking at San Diego, which is where most people are going to get their data from, notice the price decreases, though, as well here. Price improvements, 41%. Isn't that high? 22% relist.
Yeah.
Seems high. 1 in 5? Relist?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I think that sellers look at this data and look at what the market is doing, feel low inventory, low interest rates. I think a lot of people want to make a push before the election because they feel like the economy is really strong. And once you get to the election, there's a little bit of a crapshoot. But I think people look at the data that they want to, they see the data that they want to see.
Confirms there's something there.
Exactly, and I think a lot of sellers are feeling like my property is unique. There isn't a lot that's for sale around me, and therefore the value is much higher than it should be.
Still a strong seller's market here, and you can see, now if we just go back and take a look at that same data range, so if we look,
How those fiddles working?
they worked for a while, and they're starting to wear off. So if we go back, now you can see here, we really had a peak in April of 2018, where the median here on the 7-day moving average got up to almost $1 million in San Diego, which is nuts. But look at this retreat. All the way down through December. Now the Fed is raising rates, right, through this whole downturn. And it got down to below 800.
Yeah.
So that is a 20% decrease that no one was talking about, including us.
And our bet is like here, right? Show me where our bet is.
So we're right here.
Yeah, so you're right in the, I mean, you're 3/4 of the way through that downturn, which is why I understand why people felt like the market is shifting. There's a significant change that's coming. And I agree with you that that becomes my takeaway, is that we don't really know. We're making educated guesses on what's happening in the market. We're using the data that's at hand. And if you had talked about what we can do is look at past data in order to help us make a decision about future data, if you block off from here on,
Yeah. How do you see that coming?
it feels like we've reached some kind of peak.
It does now, especially because now we're back at where we were. You see that $1 million mark. We're kind of right back at that same spot there. I can't draw anything on this, unfortunately. Let's see, can I?
Hold on, Paul, hand me a marker real quick.
Just draw it on the TV. There's no way to really draw it, but you can kind of see. Oh, cool! It zoomed for me, so you can kind of see the peak over here, and then this is where we are right now, and that's on the 7-day moving average. Remember, the 9-day moving average is down here; it's a little bit lower. Let's get a couple of questions here. We are live on Facebook, by the way. You can share this video with your friends if you want to make them smarter than everyone else. We'll get some questions here, and let's see what Robert Comstock has to say. Steve, are we seeing more multi-unit hit the market after the rent control bill?
It's a great question. And I wouldn't say that there is the fire sale feeling like that people need to get out. Certainly we've seen a lot of this, the changes in rent control, that now if the property is or isn't in a trust, is or isn't in an LLC, and what's going to impact there. To me, the big thing is I saw a study that February over February, and granted it's been some time, rents went up like 29% year over year, 2018 to 2019. To me, as an owner of a multi-unit, rents are insane. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the big thing, is even in rent-controlled situations, you're still able to command a really strong rent. I've seen some that have come on the market, but I haven't seen an influx that other people, like Rob, was kind of talking about in terms of, are we going to see now all of a sudden a bunch of inventory hit the market? What's been interesting is I heard through the California Association of Realtors, they actually had to prevent evicting tenants because a lot of landlords felt like, hey, I've got somebody at very low rent. If I'm going to raise the rent, I need to do it now. And so they started issuing 30-day notices, et cetera. And it's just so funny to me the way these bills sometimes work. That's completely opposite to the reason that the whole point that it was intended.
Please, governments, just stay
out of it.
My goodness, let the market
let
work
the free
itself
market
out.
figure it out.
Seriously, there are a lot of people who have really good deals on rent out there.
Absolutely.
And those people are fortunate. And so if you do have a law come in and say, okay, well, rents can't change. I don't know exactly how the law reads or how it works. But typically, the way rent control works is that they will establish norms based on pricings and areas. So it doesn't really matter if you go and raise the rent on someone or not necessarily. Right. And it's really just a cap saying you can't charge more than this. Usually, I don't know the
only other challenge I would say with multi-unit is when it comes to reselling the property, typically the demographic of who's going to buy it is only going to be another investor. Yes, you'll get somebody that will live in one and rent out the other, but typically the units are close to each other. I'm not talking about multi-unit where there's space in between the units, but sometimes where they're connected. So the challenge becomes, when you sell that kind of property, who's going to buy a multi-unit? Typically it's an investor. And an investor is looking for a deal because they're not emotionally attached to the property. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages to the multi-unit game.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of hunger for multi-units. I haven't seen anything really dissipate in regard to that, as far as just the demand for people looking for multi-unit opportunities. So good question, though, Robert. Rob Cunningham says, so do I owe Steve $100 or what?
I don't know, check the data.
We'll have to go back and look at your comment, Rob. I know you jumped in with me on that one, and we both were wrong, obviously, here on it. Steve has said he's not collecting any money. He said he only takes pride. So whatever that means, I don't know, but I think you can put your money back in your pocket. Look at that, Leah Polowitz. She says, hello, Mr. Steve Polowitz. Hey, Leah.
Hey.
How you doing? Philippe says, volume is better for the local economy than value. So many trades depend on transactions, construction, handyman, inspectors, painters, movers, etc. A slight lowering of prices will juice the market. Yeah, you could be right. I mean, one thing's for sure, inventory is still very low. Still a high demand to live here. We've seen a pretty big exodus in the state of California, in San Diego County, every year for the past few years, meaning that our population has declined. Some people believe that that's good. Some people believe that the people who are leaving weren't necessarily participating in some of the bigger ticket stuff. but we don't know any of that data.
Right.
It's all just speculation. However, you can see what's happened. I mean, this is the data. So if I just go ahead and reset the Zoom here, you go back to December 2016. So you're telling me in 2017, 2018, and then they're going to say it again in 2019, we've had a decline in population, but look at the steady,
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty good climb. Other than this one little mark right here where the Fed was raising rates, I have a cough attack coming. Other than that, the action has been pretty good.
Right. And I mean, I think that's really a testament to what's happening. I agree that all the data has talked about an exodus, about people leaving the state of California. And if so, why such low inventory? To me, my opinion on what it is, it's because rents are insane. It's because the average family is paying what, $2,500 a month for a rental, and that's
least.
probably something small.
At least.
I mean, you're spending between $30,000 and $40,000 a year on rent, and that money you're paying somebody else's mortgage. You do that for 2 or 3 years. Now all of a sudden you're $100,000 in of money that has just gone away, and on top of that, when you look at the data that's there, at the beginning of that number starts at 750. Now that number's up to almost 1 million.
You know what I think we should look at is Vista.
Oh, now we're cooking with
This
gas
is-
here.
yeah, well, hey, I mean, this is the market that we've been talking about. Still in a strong seller's market here, as you can see. Median price almost up to $700,000
I know.
in Vista.
It's crazy.
Wow.
The secret is out.
But look at price per square foot, though, $300. That's still very reasonable.
Absolutely.
Now, you're talking about you can construct. A lot of people are saying, well, you can construct right now for two and a quarter.
Right.
So if your average is 300, people aren't really,
Yeah.
you're not getting taken to the cleaners. It's not 1,200 a foot.
Right.
So homes are on the market a little bit more, a little more price improvements there. Almost half the homes that are listed experience a price improvement. But this market, this is like the steady Eddie market. Look at I love being able to analyze the difference
I know.
between these two markets. Look at how even during the time when you saw the city of San Diego take that big dive right here, how this really held on from 680 to 604. So you didn't even see hardly a 10% decrease there, where the city of San Diego saw a 20% decrease.
Yeah. Yeah, a little over 10%. But I mean, to that point, talking about rents, you're talking about beginning here 3 years ago now at 550 with what are we ending at?
Oh, this number up here?
Almost 700,000? is what you-
699 on the 7 day.
Yeah, so if you're not getting in and you continue to spend $30,000 to $40,000 a month, or hopefully not $30,000 to $40,000 a year in rent, it's getting harder. It's not getting easier. I mean, the more that we look at these kinds of trends, even if the market comes back down to these kinds of numbers, you got to jump in pretty soon. Or to your point, of the many things of yours that I have taken away from my own plethora of things that I say
Plethysms?
and plethysms, you got to build a strategy. If you don't have a down payment, you got to have some kind of plan in terms of what you're working for. This isn't going to go up forever. But I don't think that we're going to see really significant changes downward either. And there's opportunity. You guys, as a lender, in terms of figuring out, there are FHA 3.5% down, 5% down, conventional. Our military has a great opportunity in the VA loan. There's opportunities to get in there. You can get gift funds. But somebody, looking at this red line, bought at 550, has just lived in the house for 3 years, and again, this is all based on median prices, but they've made $150,000 by living in the house?
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, in Vista, too, where you wouldn't expect to see. You
Exactly.
think it's kind of like, it's a steady Eddie market.
I
it's a
wouldn't
slow-
say that Vista is the banana belt. I mean, people are not, I'm not getting a lot of calls of saying, we're selling and we want to move to Vista. And I'm glad that people aren't saying that. There are some that say that. But typically, people are looking for those coastal communities, the Carlsbads, the Encinitas, the Del Mars. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
To specifically go back to, you're talking about home ownership strategies.
Home ownership strategy.
Because ultimately, you do need to own a home. If you want to retire comfortably,
Right.
if you want financial security, you need to own a home. Otherwise, you're going to just be paying out every month. whole point of owning a home is that you actually own it. One day you don't have to write a check anymore.
Right.
It's a way to hedge the market, hedge your costs.
Even if the value, in these scenarios, everything looks great because everybody has made money. And I've got numerous stories. I'll tell you one of them of a client where you look at it and you go, well, shoot, for the last 3 years, yeah, it makes sense. But even if this value is exactly the same, at $30,000 a year, which is, check my math here, $2,500 a month times 12 months
30
is
grand.
30 grand a year. So in this same time, if you're spending $2,500 a month, you're 90 grand that you've spent in rent, and that money is gone.
Yes.
In your words, that money is paying someone else's mortgage.
You're always paying a mortgage. It's either yours or
It's
someone
either
else's.
yours or it's somebody else's. And if the value is exactly the same, if you bought it at $550 and that line is flat, you still have paid down principal, so that even though, I mean, especially depending on what your circumstances are. My quick story is, I had a client in 2013, CPA, who came to me and said, I want to buy a house this year at last year's prices. That was his pitch. Okay, let's see what we can do. Last year to this year, 2012 to 2013, the market went up 6%.
Were you not like, step into my time machine, right? Yes. Huh?
Absolutely. And we wrote offers, and he couldn't get that significant of a deal off market value. And so there was activity then, and so properties would sell. So he doesn't buy anything in 2013, so now it's 2014. So now he really needs a good deal. Because, Steve, now I need it at 2 years ago prices. You know where this is going. He never bought. And had he been hosed,
And this is CPA.
in his CPA, had he been hosed in 2013, had he paid over the appraised value, and not to say that if you pay over the appraised value that you're getting hosed, but had he paid market value or more, everybody, even if you don't follow real estate, even if you've never been on Altos or have seen any of these graphs, would say, boy, you did well. You bought in 2013.
Oh, you crushed.
You made $150, $200, $250, $300,000
You murdered.
without knowing anything else.
Yep.
I will relate one other story, which is I went on a listing presentation for a guy in Escondido. And so I have an admin. And so I called him driving over to the property and said, hey, I have some ideas of value, but I need a second opinion. And he, when it comes to value, is always super conservative. So I give him the address, he plugs it in, he calls me back, he said, hey, are you packing? I said, huh? He said, you are going
Steel?
to the hood. So I said, okay, good to know. What do you think of the value? We were on the same, about $250 for this place. I show up, and it is the hood. It's a condo, and it's not a great area, but my client is VA, or the seller is VA. He purchased it with a VA loan for $90,000.
Oh.
He's
And it's
paid
worth
it off.
$250?
He's paid down, and then he bought it in 2001. He has made payments. He went through the up and the down and continued to make his payments.
He went through a lot of ups and downs.
He went through a lot of ups and downs. And he's a bus driver. Works, I mean, when you look at this guy, you wouldn't go, man, this guy is super wealthy. But I'll tell you what, if he sells his house for $250, his loan payoff is, he bought it for $90, his loan payoff is like 40 grand. He's gonna walk away with $200,000 tax-free, because it's his primary residence.
Right.
He said he's gonna go to Texas. That's where he wants to move. I don't know anything about the Texas market,
Buy a house free and clear, no problem.
but you can probably buy a house for $100,000 to $125,000. And what I tremendously respect about this guy, he lives simply. He's a single guy. So probably when he goes to Texas, he doesn't need some sprawling space. He'll take a small, simple place that probably, again, not knowing that market, that he can get for $120,000 or $125,000, let's say. So then he's got $75,000 left over. Then he's got a pension. Then he's probably got a 401k.
He's set.
He's set, and all he has done is buy real estate, show up to work, and wait and wait and wait, and just make payments.
All he did was use his VA home loan benefit
Right,
as early as he possibly could,
right.
and then just made his payments. He was
And
just
just-
a good boy after that.
And that's what he was, just a good boy after it. And
He's created an opportunity for himself to retire. And this is what I was talking about. You know, both my parents have homes that they own free and clear now, which has given them an opportunity to retire comfortably.
Absolutely.
And the majority of people, there's some really cool stats actually about this, where more and more people are living longer with mortgages. Now this has happened because people are refinancing too often. They're using homes as ATM machines. They don't have a good home ownership strategy. They just own a home,
Right.
but they don't have a plan to actually own it free and clear. But you got to remember that that is the ultimate goal. So if it's the case, that you're renting, I'm going to say it's okay under two conditions. Number one there has to be a good reason. In other words, I don't know where I want to live yet. I just moved to San Diego. I'm at Pacific Beach. I don't know if I want to live here, but I have a 1-year lease.
Right.
I
need to learn the market.
I need to learn the market.
Yeah.
I haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm trying to figure it out.
Where do I want to live? What schools?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you haven't figured that out yet, that's one reason. The other reason is if you're saving money. So a lot of people don't have access to a VA loan, right?
Right.
You still can do FHA, which is 3.5% down. But 3.5% down at these prices, it's 20 grand. You're going to need 20, 25 grand. So for people if you're saving up that money. So it's okay to rent if, number one, you have a very good reason. And number two, if you're saving money. So make sure if you're renting well beneath your means. Because if you can save money every month towards the future payment or down payment of your home, then you're effectively not losing time.
Right.
You can save money toward that money is going to go towards your future equity, so you are paying into your house that you don't own yet.
Right.
Most people don't do that. The biggest problem that we see is that most people will, when they rent, they'll rent to a full amount. They won't save anything. Say, well, we can afford. We're looking at places that are 2,500, but these ones that are 3,200 are way nicer.
Yeah.
And they end up going that direction. So,
And there isn't the sacrifice. What I mean is, there isn't because there's no plan in place, they figure out what they can afford and they go to the nicest possible place.
Yep.
And they max it out at that price. And my feeling is, once you get in that cycle, it's hard to get out for a variety of reasons. One is because you can't save the money. The other is, if I'm renting in Del Mar, I get pretty used to Del Mar quickly.
that's the hard part.
And then when I look at what I can afford, maybe I need to go to a further community, a Claremont Mesa, and that's getting expensive. A Santee, great upcoming. I mean, and I would say the secret's out on Santee. Vista, some of these communities. But the problem is, when you get used to Del Mar, it's hard to go from Del Mar to Vista. And I mean, the only other thing that I'm thinking about the guy from Escondido is I asked him where, because he was a local guy, and I asked him, where'd you go to school? He went to Escondido High School. He said he didn't graduate. He didn't graduate from high school. And what I appreciate about home ownership, as a bigger thing, about this country, is I would say he's a simple guy, not tremendously educated. Some would say not educated. And he's going to walk away by simply buying his house and, to your point, being a good boy, showing up to work, making his payments. He's gonna
Riding out the ups and downs.
riding out the ups and
You have
downs.
to put that in there because there's a lot of ups and downs.
There
From
was
2001
Yeah.
to today.
2005 to all the way down. But to that point, if you think about, if at today, he said he bought it for 90, I think his payoff was around 40. Even if the value was exactly the same, he still is and we sell it at 90. He's still making 40 grand. On top of, if we use our numbers of somebody that's renting for $2,500 a month, and granted in that community might be a little bit less, but $30,000 a year from 2001 to 2019, 18 years, I can't even do that math. Because it's like 500 and
You're going to get it. You're almost there.
60,
540.
$540,000 that's spent on rent. That's crazy.
We see it all the time.
And we see it all the time
All the
because people and then what I think ends up happening is people get in this cycle that they feel like, I've been doing it for 8 years, it's too late. I'm 50 years old, it's too late. It's never too late.
You're right. The secret's out on Santee. Ramona is making a comeback.
Absolutely.
As well. Philippe reminding us of that. He's got his whole
Yes.
setup over there in Ramona. There's a lot of really good things happening. I think, clearly the market stayed strong. We don't know what's going to happen. saw the stock market take a little bit of a dive today, but did rally at the end, even though we're down 250 points or so. So it's going to be very interesting coming into an election year, coming into a new decade,
Right.
exactly what's going to happen. Steve, the big question, 2020. What's the burrito bet for 2020?
Oh, the burrito bet. Burrito bet is we're going to, year over year, you're going to see appreciation
Again,
again. Yeah. Because with the election, on the way out, or new on the way in, or whoever takes over, they're going to want to use the remaining bullets that are in their clip in order to stimulate this economy.
You think
and
so?
push it.
I
Absolutely.
think that rates are going to go lower.
I don't know that rates are going to go lower, but rates are incredible right now.
True.
And if you're missing the boat on rates, it's on you, because the difference that we're going to see is what, a quarter point, something like that. Get in now. Money's on sale,
Yeah.
and there's some great and if you own a home, look at refinancing it. Look at what does it look like. At least crunch the numbers, because I know many people are saving hundreds of dollars a month
Yeah.
with some very simple refinances.
Yeah. Oh, there's easy ones, especially if you're FHA or VA, which is our specialty. You can do what's called streamline. So if you're FHA, you can do a streamline refinance, which is like a low documentation, no appraisal needed refinance. It's super, super easy, which is one of the benefits of doing a FHA loan. VA is even easier. The IRRL, the IRRL, IRRRL, 3 R's. How many did I get there? I don't even know. So I'm a little out of it right now, but
Are you ever in it?
the IRRL, yeah, all the time. When I mop the floor with you, usually. So the IRRL is a great VA refinance where you don't need you do need credit. You do have to credit qualify for the rate. That's something you need a good credit score, but you don't have to have necessarily. You don't have to have income necessarily.
Right.
Like if you lose a job or something, you can still IRRL,
Right.
which is cool. Or if you went self-employed and so you're making money, but it doesn't quite show up in your tax rate, you can still IRRL. It's pretty cool.
Right.
No appraisal needed. You just get the lower rate. It's
And
awesome.
so to your point about what's going to happen in 2020, there needs to be just looking at the most basic economics of supply and demand, right now we have a fair amount of demand and we have very limited supply. So in order for there to be a significant shift, we need one or both of those to change drastically. I don't foresee a bunch of inventory hitting the market, and I don't see a bunch of buyers that right now want to buy a house and aren't able to come spring saying, you know what, we've changed our mind, we don't want to buy a house, unless prices get crazy. But I don't foresee a jump in prices that's so significant that buyers say, I'm tapped out, I can't do it.
Well, this is going to be weird, but I think I might actually agree with you. And the reason is because we've seen it now multiple times in the past few years that the real estate market is being driven by interest rates.
Right.
And it has become very, very clear that the Fed is they're not taking on their role, which is, in my opinion, and I believe it's clearly laid out, to try to prevent recessions and to maintain liquidity. They're actually trying to stimulate the economy.
Right.
So they're actually a few steps ahead of where I believe they should be. And if they maintain that outlook, then it's essentially a stacked deck. Until some catastrophe takes place. And who knows what that catastrophe could be. It could be Bitcoin, it could be the Russian hackers steal all of our money out of, off the internet or whatever. Until some catastrophe takes place.
Right.
If they're able to just move the pawns around on the chessboard like this, they can drive the market higher.
And I'm going to throw you one curveball that I'd like you to pull up, which is here in Southern California, we have such an opportunity. We've talked about Vista going from 550 to 700. Put in Missouri.
Does Altos do Missouri?
I believe so. We're going to find out.
Or we want to do St. Louis?
Sure. There you go. And let's see this same report. Now, granted, so also a slight seller's advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see this graph.
Price per
$103 a square foot,
Oh my
129,000 median list price.
Wow, look at the least expensive listings, $3,000.
I mean, in Southern California, we have such a tremendous opportunity.
Similar
Now, the
graph.
graph looks similar, but the prices over here we're going 3 years ago from 120, and look, it's up to 130. In 3 years, if in our same example, the Vista guy that bought 3 years ago made $150,000 in St. Louis, they made 10 grand. there is opportunity. And granted, the market is more volatile in Southern California, but it's also more desirable.
If I would have bet you on St. Louis, I'd won.
You,
Here in October of
yes.
2018, it was at 154 and has actually gone down since then.
Yeah.
Which is really, really interesting. But it just shows you that
And St. Louis is a major city.
it's a major city. It is sort of become a crime-ridden city, unfortunately. But
All those unruly Cardinal fans?
it is.
Or what? Too many championships? They don't know where to put them all? Or flipping cars? There's always some championship that they need to...
You know, I'm not sure exactly what the stats are on that, so I'm going to leave that
We
alone.
lost a lot of good men out
But
there.
I will say that there are a lot of markets in the Midwest that I think are actually completely ridiculous. In fact, while we're on this, let's just look at Boise. Why not?
Why
Do
not?
they have it?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at Boise. So
Strong sellers market,
strong sellers market, leaning a little more to the left there.
400,000.
400 thou. Okay. So that doesn't sound too crazy
Yeah.
when you consider that San Diego was almost 1 million. But we're talking about Boise, Idaho. There's other ones too. When we go to Montana, what's the main city in Montana?
Bozeman? No,
Is it Bozeman?
No, well, I mean, there's,
Helena?
yeah, Helena's the capital.
Helena the capital? Actually, wait a minute. Before we do that, let's look at the graph.
Yeah, let's look at. So, I mean, it looks like Vista. You went from
Dude,
260.
no, it's crazier.
It's even better.
260 to almost 400.
Yeah.
Dude,
As a
So-
percentage, yeah, we were talking 550 to 700.
that's what I'm saying. Like, some of these markets have just gone bonkers. This is Idaho, bro. Idaho. So what I've looked at when I've looked at some of these other markets is that I think prices have just gone absolutely nuts in some of these other places.
Right.
In comparison to here, where
Oh,
you know,
so you're saying that when the market shifts, Boise's going to get beat up more than San Diego.
absolutely, because as these other markets double when we're only going up, 15%,
Right.
it just increases the value in the San Diego market, right?
Right.
So I think those markets all doing that is a good sign for not just San Diego, but really all the California markets.
But the security of the California markets. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting argument.
Yeah, I might be bullish. I don't know, but I think in 2020, it's all up to the Fed. They've made that very obvious.
Right.
And so I did lose the bet. I did come in sick just to take my medicine.
When's the parade? Is the parade happening pretty soon? Like, does the confetti fall? From
And that's it for today's segment. He says, oh yeah, Robert says they're trying to stop deflation. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. But the Fed has a tough job, right? Like, it's not easy. But very clearly, they're the ones moving the market. And so it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter about the global economy. It doesn't matter that there's tariff wars. It doesn't matter that there are other countries that are sinking quickly on an economic scale that's just nuts. But what's happening is all the wealth from all those places is pouring into our country.
Right.
I mean, the great thing about America is we have the big stick.
Right.
We have the best military. Thank you to everyone out there who serves this country, because without you, we wouldn't have this. Listen, people, whoever has the biggest stick gets the money, right? I mean, this is age old. Like this, you go back to medieval times, you go back before that. It doesn't matter. The money flows behind the big stick. And America definitely has the big stick, right? We have the biggest military.
Right.
So as a result of that, we're considered to be safe. We're also a free country, or a democracy. Well, we're technically a republic, but whatever. So people see that. You're making a bunch of money. Let's say you have $2 or $3 million, you live in China. You don't feel so comfortable with it. You know the government could come and just take it from you one day and you would have no recourse. So you're buying houses in San Diego, California.
Right.
Cash. Because to you, even if it goes down 10 or 15%, you don't even care.
Right.
You know that at least over there, you'll have some rights. You have a chance to even make money. You can get some rent. That's what's happening right now, which I think is really good. But I also think at some point, that's going to bleed in. At some point, it's going to bleed in. I don't know when. I don't know what the catalyst is, but it doesn't appear to be anytime soon. It might be. I know Barry B was calling recession 2020. I think he's going to recant that soon in, say, 2021 or 2022.
Right. And we've been talking about a recession coming. Since 2014, 2015, people have said it's a year out, it's 2 years out, it's a year out, it's 18 months out. I've heard that time and again. I'm glad that some people haven't listened, because if you listened to that in 2014, 15, I don't want to say you've missed it. You haven't missed it.
Missed a lot.
You've missed a lot, though.
Missed a lot.
And I think that my takeaway from it is build a strategy, build some sort of plan, and work with that plan. And if your plan is, I'm going to stay here for 7 to 12 years, then I would say, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter when you buy. Certainly, you want to do what you can in order to investigate some things and not overspend. But 7 years ago, if you bought in 2012, or 12 years ago, if you bought in 2007, you're still in a cycle looking solid. And even if numbers are 2007 to 2019 in terms of value are the same exact, you've paid down that principal over 12 years. You've put together some kind of plan and strategy.
Yep, you're in good shape. Create a homeownership strategy. Reach out to Steve or myself. Happy to help you guys do that, Steve. Great job being right one time. It was a good time. It was a very good time to be right.
You were just less right.
Yeah, I was right for a couple weeks. And then after that, it just went the other way.
And I said, come with me, real estate. Take it.
He carried the whole market himself. Share this video with your friends. Help us make everyone in your feed smarter than everyone else. We'll see you soon.